All right, good morning, traders. Today is January 9th, 2026. My name is John Carignan, or Coach Carignan. I'm the lead instructor here at the BYOB Trading Room. This is a day trading division of the Hit and Run Candlesticks family. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everybody. Podcast land, digital land, cyber land. Thank you for following and liking and subscribing to my content. Thank you, John Jordan, Bob Jordan, Kathy, Sarah Roasted for subscribing, for sharing the content. Appreciate that. Love that. Helping get the good word out there. All right. Let's go take a look at the markets and let's move along here. All right. So my SPY pivot this morning, 689.25. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. IWM made a new all-time high. Diamond Dow and SPY made lower lows and lower highs, closing over their bullish traps and over their 17 EMAs. QQQ, lower high, lower low, closing inside a bullish trap over a flat 17 EMA. FNGU, that's the stinker. All right, made a lower high, lower low, closing under a bearish trap under the falling 17. SPY closed, 2-hour downtrend, 10-minute uptrend. Gold made outside day, that's a higher high and a lower low, closing over bullish trap over the rising 17. Silver, lower high, lower low, closing inside a bullish trap over the rising 17. USO, new downtrend, made a higher low, higher high, closing over a bullish cross over the 17. UNG made a lower high and a lower low, closing, that's for you bottom pickers, that's way down there. Okay, lower high, lower low, closing under a bearish trap under the falling 17. US dollar index in an uptrend inside that bear flag and closed near the 98.88 area. SPY max pain for today, 688, with a put to call ratio of about 1.2 puts for each call that expires today at 4:15. Security options expire at 4. Index options expire at 4:15. Main event this week's the employment situation, due to be released at 8:30, not 8, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time today. All right, let's take a peek at the markets. Oh, by the way, these are all in daily downtrends under the 17. These are all in daily uptrends over the 17. These are all in daily downtrends under the 17. If they got a star, they're building out a launch pad or a bull flag from which to launch higher. If they have a star over here, they're building out a platform or a bear flag from which to dive lower. All right, let's take a look at the markets. All right, take a look at that after. It's going to become relevant after. Let's pull up the SPY. All right, let's pull up the 10-minute chart first, okay? You can see price action from yesterday, okay? Nothing but chop. Over VWAP, under VWAP, over VWAP, under VWAP, over VWAP. Didn't move, didn't get going, didn't break any rubber band candles. Okay, so there's SPY. We left off with 10-minute uptrend right there. Okay, not a very convincing, more like 10-minute consolidation. But I got a 10-minute uptrend right there. You can see the 3 on top of the 8. All right, so I'm looking for a continuation of the 10-minute uptrend, okay? No spinning tops, no dojis, no topping wick candles, more wick than body and tail combined, okay? No red candles. So I'm looking for a 10-minute uptrend, a continuation of the 10-minute uptrend. Okay, so that's SPY on the 10-minute. On the 2-hour, got a 2-hour downtrend. Okay, but notice this is actually supposed to belong here. Okay, so take that out of there. That doesn't need to go there. All right, so there's SPY, 2-hour downtrend. Daily time frame still in an uptrend. Top of quadrant 4. Here's our April low. All right, top of quadrant 4, that's bullish and in an uptrend. Weekly chart, you see all the green dots, bullish and in an uptrend. Monthly chart, see all the green dots, bullish and in an uptrend. Okay, so SPY bullish and an uptrend on the bigger time frames. So playing short or with puts or 10-minute downtrends is counter trend. All right, let's take a look at the game plan. Check this out on the 15-minute chart. All right, game plan for this morning for SPY. Again, I'm going to trade a continuation of the 10-minute uptrend. Keep in mind, 8:30, we got the employment situation coming out. Things could get volatile. All right. Green erases red over 690.60. Pivot 689.25. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. Red erases green underneath 687.50. All right. So there's the SPY. I trade 7 and 14 days till expiration Friday options on the multiple of 5s, specifically for the open interest. I like a tight bid-ask spread. I don't like a lot of slippage. I like strikes $2 to $15 out of the money. Okay, they tend to be cheaper. Remember, I'm only working with, this is my max risk. Yesterday, my account closed at 53,374. Max risk is 10%. That's 5,337. Daily goal is 1%. So I got to make 533 today. Okay, yesterday was nothing but flat. Very difficult day. Okay, very choppy day. Never went anywhere. If you had options, all they did is, especially the zero, well, actually all the options, all they did was decay. That's it. That was a day of decay. All right, on SPY, on the game plan right there. All right, so I like 10-minute uptrends over VWAP. I like 10-minute downtrends under VWAP. If a 10-minute uptrend happens to manifest down here long before the green erases red entry, I'm not opposed to trading it. I'd just like to see it break the bullish 10-minute rubber band candle. If a 10-minute downtrend happens to manifest up here long before it gets to the red erases green entry, I'm not opposed to trading it as long as it breaks that bearish 10-minute rubber band candle. So there's our SPY game plan for this morning. Okay, so let's take a look at QQQ. All right, QQQ, green erases red over 621.30, red erases green underneath 618.10, pivot 620.20, above it I'm a bull, below it I'm a bear. I trade, same thing, 7 and 14 days till expiration, Friday options on the multiple of 5, specifically for the open interest. Again, I don't like a lot of slippage on my stops. I want to get in with a tight bid-ask spread. All right, I like strikes $2 to $15 out of the money. They offer less risk, all right, because they're lower in cost if you pay for an in-the-money option. Hey, let me get this straight. Let me clear this up. Okay, I'm not opposed to trading 0 DTEs, all right, but if I'm starting out, I want to try to start with something that gives me more time for my option to work out. And I'm not opposed to trading in-the-money strikes, all right, but just remember, you're going to pay up for those in-the-money strikes. They're going to cost you a lot more. If you get a big red candle like this and you have 10 of those in-the-money strikes, you can see that candle right there goes from 623, okay, down to 619. Okay, that's a $4 drop in one 15-minute candle. If you have 10 contracts, okay, that's $4,000 right there if you got in the money contracts, okay, because you're going to get that penny per penny performance, okay, so, and it's a double-edged sword, okay, if that trend is not right, if the direction is not right and it moves against you, there's a $4,000 dip in your account, all right. For that reason, I choose the out of the money contracts, all right, because I don't want to experience that $4,000 dip like that, and I like to get more than just one contract. So there's our QQQ game plan. Again, same thing. I trade 10-minute uptrends over VWAP, 10-minute downtrends under VWAP. Again, I like my favorite trade, 10-minute uptrend over VWAP that resides inside the 2-hour uptrend, that lives inside the daily uptrend, inside the weekly uptrend, inside the monthly uptrend, all over the all-time high anchored VWAP, okay? So that's my favorite trade. We might get it today, although the 2 hours in a downtrend currently, it can be repaired. We can see what happens with what happens today. All right, so there's QQQ. All right, let's take a look around the markets here. Let's look at the QQQ on the 10-minute chart, and we'll pick it up right here. Get 10-minute uptrend coming into the close. All right, so I'm looking for a continuation of the 10-minute uptrend. Remember, volatility strikes at 8:30 today. Okay, 10-minute uptrend coming into the close. 2 hour, got a 2 hour downtrend because the 3 is underneath the 8 here. Okay, but we're still above the uptrend line. Okay, so 2 hour downtrend on the daily chart. Okay, lower high, lower low, closing in the bullish trap over the flat 17, top of quadrant 4, so that's bullish, okay, and still in an uptrend. Nothing's broken yet. Let's take a look at IWM. New all-time high for IWM. Okay, drop the mic. It doesn't get any better than that. All right, that's obviously bullish. There's the April low, and in an uptrend. Let's take a look at Diamond Dow. Diamond Dow made a new all-time high the day before yesterday. Okay, higher low, lower high, lower low, closing over a bullish trap, over a rising 17. Again, top of quadrant 4. Here's our April low. All right, and in an uptrend for Diamond Dow. Let's take a look at Stinker. All right, Stinker puts in lower high, lower low, closing underneath. Bearish trap underneath. Falling 17 underneath. All-time high anchored VWAP underneath. Minor resistance, which once was major support. Okay, so here's our neckline here. Don't want to break this line. Testing it quite a few times. Just going to say we could get a breakthrough to the downside. All right, if things start to break down here, we could see, I'm going to say, some bad numbers. All right, some really, really bad numbers. Okay, so that's FNGU on the daily chart. Okay, it's neutral, still in a downtrend. All right, let's take a look at silver. Silver got a lower high, lower low, closing inside a bullish trap over the rising 17, top of quadrant 4. Here's our 2022 low right back here. That's bullish and in an uptrend. Gold got an outside day. It's a higher high, a lower low, closing over a bullish trap, over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Okay, top of quadrant 4. All right, here's our 2022 low. That's bullish and in an uptrend. That's gold. UNG. UNG, lower high, lower low, closing under a bearish trap, under the falling 17. That's the red dots right there. Falling 17 exponential moving average. Okay, closing underneath 2025 high anchored VWAP. You can see we spent very little time over the 2025 high anchored VWAP. So all year, all right, the markets felt that UNG was overpriced, even when it was up at 25. Okay, for a whole year, the markets felt that natural gas ETF was overpriced. Okay, because they didn't want to pay the going rate or more. All right, one time, and then they went up and they gave it up and more because they made some new all-time lows down here 3 or 4 days ago. Right there, that's a new all-time low. Okay, so there's UNG, bearish and in a downtrend. Let's take a look at USO. USO made a lower low yesterday. See the low here? They made a lower low the day before. All right, so they're in a downtrend. All right, and you look right here, they came back with a vengeance. They made a higher high and a higher low. Now they got to take out that high. Okay, if they take out that high, they'll have an uptrend. All right, they are underneath the downtrend line. So they're in a downtrend line. They're in a downtrend currently. All right, because they left off. They haven't made a higher high yet. They're not in the lower thirds, so they're neutral and in a downtrend, still underneath the downtrend line, still underneath the post-COVID high in 2022. You can see the pink line right there, anchored VWAP, okay? So obviously the markets don't feel like, they feel like oil is also overpriced. because they're not willing to pay more than it and hang around up here. Okay, so there's the daily chart for USO. All right, let's take a look at see the markets. Let's see, SPY. Already did that. Let's take a look at the pre-market. I would go through a pre-market, but I got to tell you, at 8:30, we're going to get a lot of volatility. All right, 8:30, it's coming out. Thanks, Alan. All right, 8:30. So, I mean, I could give you a plan. Right now, my plan on SPY and QQQ on the 10-minute chart is to trade a continuation of the 10-minute uptrend, although it could get disrupted from the employment situation numbers. So we'll see what happens. And then again, we could get some new all-time highs. I don't know. We'll find out. All right, in about, looks like 14 minutes, we'll know. All right, let's take a look at the economic numbers. Okay, so here I'm going to pan way out. Okay, I'm going to see if I can pull up my drawing tools, see if they're going to show up. Looking like daily chart on the US dollar index in a little power trend right here. Okay, let's get this out. Get this out. Okay, you can see price moves down. Okay, we got a downtrend right here. Downtrend. And then we go into a channel, okay, over to the right, like a bear flag right over that. Okay, so we got a bear flag on the bigger picture. There's the 2025 high. We're in 2026. Okay, you can see they went up. This is the consolidation. They went up, they came down, they went back up. They double tapped it. They couldn't get over it. They came back. They made a higher low. Okay, right here. All right, and now they're going, they got a higher, they made a higher high. There's a high right there on the daily chart, and they made a higher high. So they're in an uptrend over here, and they're doing a little power trend back up to the upside, the top side of the bear flag. All right, so they closed yesterday 98, 88, I think around there, 98, I'm going to call it 98, 86. And they're in a little power trend heading back towards the top side of the flag, okay? So currently, they're in a daily uptrend, all right? We like a weak dollar as investors because that means usually equates to more profits, all right? Because weak dollar for our securities means those companies can sell their goods and services overseas and to foreign soil. As long as we got a weak dollar, those countries are able to convert their currency into ours, and it doesn't cost them as much as when we have a strong dollar. Because when we have a strong dollar, it costs them more of their currency to purchase our goods and services. So this makes us more competitive. So the more we sell globally, you can picture higher revenues for companies, all right, which usually transcends into higher profits, which means higher earnings, which means a higher multiple, all right? And it shows growth at the same time. All right, so here's the dollar, okay? The consumer in us, all right, hates a weak dollar, okay? Because it costs us more of our hard-earned dollars to purchase goods and services that we need every day, all right? So the consumer in us thinks it sucks, but the investor in us likes a weak dollar because then we got opportunity in the markets for the markets to grow or to move higher. Okay, so my SPY max pain for today, all right, is 688. That's for the options that expire today. Put to call ratio is about 1.2 puts for every call. Not much of a put squeeze. And you can see price is currently trading above max pain. Okay, on the economic calendar, wait a minute, we'll do the earnings. Earnings calendar, you can see nothing there that's going to move the markets. By the way, you can see the dash. There's no moonlight or sunlight, so obviously they haven't got their P&Ls put together yet. Okay, on the economic calendar, we've got for today the employment situation at 8:30, housing starts and permits at 8:30. If you didn't get one housing starts and permits at 8:30, we're going to give you a second one. All right? So we're going to give you a double dose of housing starts and permits. And I don't think they're going to repeat the same numbers. So maybe they're going to do, I don't know, maybe 1 week and then another week. We'll see what happens. These are delayed reports, by the way, not the employment situation. That'll be a fresh one. All right, but the housing starts and permits, those are both delayed reports. All right, it means they didn't come out on time. Got consumer sentiment at 10. Usually you get a rig count at 1. That seemed to have disappeared from the 2026 calendar. It used to be there. It's no longer there anymore. All right, that's it for me for this morning. Okay, really nothing I can say other than the 10-minute uptrend that I plan on trading. All right, price moving up right now like that. Going to continue to trade that 10-minute uptrend. Employment situation comes out at 8:30. Going to be a lot of volatility right around 8:30. So we'll see what happens. All right. All right, traders. I will see you all in 45 minutes, and we'll kick off the markets.